You asked for it, and you got it. Batman, The Mask of the Phantasm, the complete review. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. I am so excited about this episode. And if you're new here, then you have picked a great one to tune in for the first time. Last November, I took a little bit of a break from Batman the Animated Series, and I just put it out there if there was anything that anybody would like to see me review on this channel. And I had a lot of people requesting to see Batman Mask of the Phantasm, so I seized the opportunity now, while there's not as many episodes for Batman the Animated Series airing in the original airing order 25 years later, to talk about Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Your angel of death awaits.
You ain't the Bat!
For those of you that don't know, this is the first feature-length animated movie for Batman, and the only one that was released in the movie theaters. And it came out on Christmas Day, 1993.
Such rot, sir. Why, you're the very model of sanity. Oh, by the way, I've pressed your tights and put away your exploding gas balls.
And because this was such a big moment and a big episode for me, I thought I'd do something a little bit special with this. And I decided for this episode, for this movie, to have a bit of a co-reviewer with me. And that was my lovely wife, MaryBeth.
To
Batman.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, right. Who has never seen the movie. So I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to have dual perspectives of me, who watched this movie a lot and saw it in the theaters when it first came out, and MaryBeth, who had never seen this up until now. Now, her history with Batman is a little bit different. She remembers seeing bits and pieces of Batman the Animated Series as a kid, but wasn't quite her cup of tea. So the movie came out and passed her by, and so now that she's married to me, she gets to enjoy and see all these things for the first time.
It's your phone number.
How are you going to do that in his own house?
It's rude.
Excuse me.
Luckily, it didn't stain.
So we sat down and watched it like we did with the Newsies movie. If you haven't seen that episode, you should check out the link to see us talking about Newsies, which was on the 25th anniversary of the movie. But we sat down, we poured a glass of wine, and watched the movie. And I think I was more excited about it because there was moments in the movie that I was anxious to see her reaction to.
Oh no.
You gotta be kidding me.
I think it's always fun when you sit down to watch a movie that you love and enjoy with somebody that you love and enjoy, and get to experience it through them for the first time. And this was no exception. For me, it was great fun to share a movie that obviously is such a big part of my childhood and encapsulates a series that was such a big part of my childhood with my wife for the first time. So it was a great fun experience to do that.
It's like his parents.
Yeah. What's the matter?
Are they gonna do this? Is it physically impossible for them to make a Batman without showing in some capacity the death of his parents?
It's a very important part of his life.
But what I'm saying is, I know because every single Batman anything, they show it. Like, okay, we get it. And I'm not as much of a fan as many other people are. Like, do real Batman fans get annoyed by that? Or they find that, like, endearing?
Yeah, it connects you to who he is. So I'm not going to even attempt to do a 60-second rundown of the movie because there's obviously a lot in there. But I will say that when I started watching it, because this was a movie that was released for the theaters, it was obvious that it was a big deal. And the opening sequence with going through Gotham with the computer animation is phenomenal and certainly gets you into the mood. And hearing that score, I was reminded that I had this soundtrack on cassette tape and I wore that thing out. I listened to it constantly. And so I want to say right up front, one of the highlights of the animated series television show has always been the soundtrack. But Shirley Walker's soundtrack was just phenomenal. The score of the episode and the themes that she used for the villains was just incredible. And so to start this off, to have the choir singing along with the Danny Elfman Batman theme, just was phenomenal. That was probably, of all moments of the movie, that was just so much. That drew me right back to sitting into that theater for the first time watching this movie.
I think you'll find the product was worth the wait. Go ahead.
Take a good look, boys.
And in classic Batman fashion, the movie kicks off with Batman taking down some good old-fashioned mobsters. And even MaryBeth commented how...
You can't waste any time. I feel like this is a scene for the end of the movie.
Just to give you a brief synopsis of the movie as best I can, is that there's a new villain in town, the Phantasm, although I don't believe that the Phantasm's ever referred to by name.
Is the Phantasm a person, or is...
You just saw the Phantasm.
That's his name? The Phantasm?
The Mask of the Phantasm.
But his name is the Phantasm?
We haven't heard his name. Why is that so confusing to you?
Like, is that his name?
Yes, it is the Phantasm.
The villain is the Phantasm.
Ghost-like apparition that appears and disappears, taking out these mob bosses one by one. And a lot of people think that it is Batman that has now gone rogue and is now killing people. Batman's trying to hunt this down and figure out who's behind this phantasm. And that story is paralleled by a series of flashbacks to Bruce Wayne as a young man, first coming into his own as Batman. And then while he is at the grave visiting his parents, he meets a new love interest, Andrea Beaumont.
They met in a cemetery?
Pretty romantic, huh? They begin dating, and the story kind of follows this turmoil that young Bruce Wayne is going through of choosing a life of happiness with Andrea Beaumont and getting married and having kids and a family, and fulfilling the promise that he had to his parents to avenge them and to do better in the city and to stop crime and prevent this thing that happened to him of losing his parents from happening to somebody else.
Please. I need it to be different now. I know I made a promise, but I didn't see this coming. I didn't count on being happy.
Turns out her father's involved with the mob, and she ends up having to break off the engagement with Bruce Wayne because she's being sent away. Meanwhile, present day, Batman is tracking down the Phantasm and is learning that there's some ties to his past with these different mobsters. That Phantasm seems to be targeting some of those mobsters, mob bosses that were affiliated with Andrea's father, and that all comes together to fulfill the plot. I don't know if I should do this spoiler free or not, so we'll just leave it there for a moment.
Anybody got a problem with that?
Batman has a problem with that.
So there was definitely some great cinematic choices that were made for this movie. One, just seeing the animated series in a widescreen format was kind of cool. There was definitely more things that they were able to get away with. The Phantasm was actually killing people, and that was a theme that they dealt with. Now there was people that were believing that Batman had gone rogue and was actually killing people, and Gordon's trying to defend that he wouldn't have ever done that.
Mr. Police, you are under arrest.
What are you doing with that?
How's Batman under arrest?
Because they think he's the Phantasm.
Yeah, except that they know it wasn't. Remember, they were in...
Commissioner Gordon knows it's not, because Commissioner Gordon trusts him.
Okay, but isn't he in charge?
Yeah, but...
So who authorized this helicopter to go pick up Batman?
Were you Commissioner Gordon walked out and he's like, if you want him arrested, then do it yourself?
So they're just going against Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Where's he at?
Probably on a sting.
On vacation or something? He looks old. He's probably retired.
He doesn't go on vacation. And there was, artistically speaking, it was a little bit more realistic in the sense that there was a lot more blood. In the animated series, there's a couple of moments where there was blood, but this one, there was some outright fist fights that were just dripping Batman, not just a little blood on his lip, but like blood coming from all over. And
for once, I'm stuck without a punchline.
And the Phantasm character was certainly a lot darker and a lot more mysterious and a lot more frightful.
So he got killed. So the Phantasm is a ghost? Oh boy. Probably why he keeps showing up in the cemetery.
Just downright scary in parts that they didn't do in the animated series. Even with the Scarecrow, there were scary moments, but not like this kind of nightmare haunting Phantasm coming towards you in the night sort of scary.
Need some whitening toothpaste.
Something that MaryBeth and I were talking about was the choice of using this as a movie. Now, first of all, the movie itself, in fact, is only 76 minutes. What do you think?
It was pretty short.
Which is interesting because even the Screen Actors Guild, by current standards, considers a feature length to be anything 80 minutes and longer, although the American Film Institute considers anything over 40 minutes. So it's kind of in that gray area of, is this really a feature-length film?
Why? He never leaned on us before. I'm too old for this.
And MaryBeth had mentioned after watching all of this,
Is there a reason that they made this as opposed to making this an episode?
I think that the typical tendency for a movie would have been, well, let's do something big. Let's use all of the villains, put them all into a plot together to stop Batman and raise the stakes that way. And they kind of went a different route. They took a completely new villain and kind of followed this subplot, a lot of the flashbacks. And MaryBeth even said that,
I mean, no offense to the movie, but half of it is flashbacks. Like, it could have been chopped down and maybe like made into a two-part episode or something.
Now, I did hear that the original story that Alan Burnett had intended on writing for the movie was what ended up turning into the episode The Trial, where Batman is captured by the Arkham inmates and is held on trial for his crimes against them. And that being a way of using all of the villains in the story. But they kind of ended up scrapping that idea because it was going to immobilize Batman for too long of the film to really do that right. So they threw that out and they decided to go this complete different direction and not use the Rogues Gallery at all. It seems to be kind of up in the air whether or not Joker was always intended on being in that or it was an afterthought. But that was a great moment to watch MaryBeth see the Joker come on the screen for the first time and not expect him to be in the movie.
I didn't know he was in this. Usually it's just like one villain, but I guess it's a movie, so they can do more. Is Catwoman in this?
Phantasm, although a great threat and a great villain, especially because it's so far been the only villain that has killed anybody, it sort of fell flat. Now, and again, I know that one of the focuses of the movie was to introduce a love story that they hadn't done in the animated series up to this point. And when it all comes together, spoiler alert, you should stop watching now if you have not seen all of Phantasm. So I'll just wait for a moment for you to turn off. So the big reveal at the end is that the Phantasm is in fact Andrea Beaumont, who is seeking revenge on all of the mob bosses who had ruined her father's life and her life, and is now coming back to Gotham to wipe them out.
I'm impressed, lady. You're harder to kill than a cockroach on steroids.
And I have to say, that was a great twist. It was a big surprise for me when I first saw it. And once again, being able to watch it with MaryBeth, it was a big surprise for her. And I have to say, MaryBeth is really good at guessing what's about to happen in movies and how it's going to end. I often say I'm the best audience member because I am right with you minute for minute. I'm not thinking too far ahead and often forget things that I've just seen. We've had to have this discussion when we're watching something new for the first time, that when she inevitably figures the mystery out before I do, not to say it out loud because I still haven't figured it out. So I was anxious to see if she would have guessed that the Phantasm was Andrea, and she did not.
I think I know who the Phantasm is.
Oh, you do? Huh?
Yeah, I think I do.
Who?
I think it's that girl's dad.
Which I thought was a solid guess, that he wasn't actually dead, but he has come back as the Phantasm. No, it was in fact Andrea. And so that was a great twist. And I think that moment in the movie is really enjoyable.
So you figured it out.
Gotta hand it to you. Nice scheme. Costumes a bit theatrical, but hey.
Wait, what? She's the Phantasm.
Yeah.
She's avenging her father's death.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I have to say, the movie aged pretty well up until the very end credits. The love theme that they have for the movie was very 90s.
But, well, you said this was, what, 93?
Yeah, if you can't tell by the soundtrack to the of the credits. But other than that, it held up really well, and it was very entertaining for me to watch it. MaryBeth enjoyed it as well. I don't want to say just as much because I don't think she's as big of a Batman fan as I am.
Wouldn't it be great if I'd finally driven him off the deep end?
This isn't a joke.
I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen the movie, which if you haven't, you should have clicked off earlier. So I'm assuming I'm talking to the people that have seen it. I recommend going out and watching it again. This movie also is now out on Blu-ray. They re-released it on Blu-ray, which is why they are now releasing the entire series on Blu-ray. If you didn't hear about that, you'll have to check out that video where I talk about the Blu-ray edition of Batman, the animated series. But if you haven't yet bought the Blu-ray version of Batman, The Mask of the Phantasm, I have a link down in the description where you can go directly to Amazon to be able to purchase that. And I recommend it. It's a great movie to have to your collection. And if you're a big Batman fan like me, it's sort of a rite of passage that you got to at least own the first Batman movie. And there's a lot more out there. So, and hopefully throughout the course of this channel that I'll be talking about more of those. But in the meantime, click on that link to be able to buy Batman Mask of the Phantasm on Blu-ray. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for suggesting this because it was great fun and a great excuse to sit down and watch the movie with some intention of being able to review it here on the channel and bring you my opinions and my thoughts about the Mask of the Phantasm. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like, thumbs up button. And if you want to see more reviews like this, then just hit the subscribe button. And we're doing the entire animated series and lots of extra content like this with the animated movies, and I got some other ideas that I'm working on. So hit the subscribe button, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I'll see you soon.